Two. There we go. There's audio. So we are getting the default speaker.
Two.
There we go. All right. All right. Let me shut this off so I don't hear myself. Got it. All right. There's always a technical difficulty. And, what are we going through? I'm actually having an interview today at 10 a.m. So I was planning to have this around 9, a little bit earlier. But as luck would have it, and situations, circumstance, happenstance, and just life in general, just trying to get this thing up was a mission this morning. And even the description is wrong, and I got everything set up. But anyway, my apologies for that. But yeah, so I'm having an interview this morning at 10 a.m. With a potential candidate. We have about 3 potential candidates after about a week right now. I started running the ads, I think, last Sunday in the morning. And as of today, we're probably up. We had 50 applicants running, about 59 applicants right now. We've had 9 more throughout the week. I performed a one-way interview where I created a video. For those of you interested in that, Easy Hire is it's easyhire.me is the website. I don't get anything from it, but that's what we've been using forever. And you can custom make a video there. And then what we do is we take the information we get in from Indeed. And what I've done with Indeed is I created a playlist of videos so that people would know what it is that we do as work, and actually have an idea, because most people think they're going to be running around with a B&G all day. They don't even know what a B&G is. They just know that they see the guy in their apartment spraying baseboards, and they think, oh, I can make $20 an hour doing this with no knowledge. And then they're in for a shock when I start talking to them. They have virtually no understanding of how to do anything manual. And it's a nightmare with people trying to explain what we do. So what I did is I created a playlist. I put it in the description. I said, hey, when they apply automatically, it sends an auto respond on Indeed, says, hey, thank you for your interest. By the way, to know more about what you actually do, go to this link on our playlist. And since I have 600-700 videos, I went ahead and I don't know if this thing's going nuts or what. I have no idea what's going on with. This is so distracting. I'm looking at it on Facebook to make sure that it's actually coming through, but it becomes a distraction. So if you're hearing me and everything is working fine, and I don't appear to be going at 3,000 miles an hour, then everything is well in the world. And then we got that list of playlist that we put out, and then once they say, and I said, once, if this is for you, respond to me, and we can move to the next step. But I have the 5 steps listed in that text also. So it says, hey, you're going to watch the video. You're going to get back to me. If that's the case, we'll ask you to fill out an application. So then when they get back to me and say, yeah, this is for me, and the people who do respond, if they don't respond, they didn't watch the video, they don't care. So I only care about the 1% that's going to respond to this. And I can't waste my time with anybody reading 10,000 resumes and interviewing everybody that thinks they deserve an opportunity. If you can't follow a simple instruction, like go figure out what this is actually about before you apply, because you didn't read the job description and you just start applying for everything, then it disqualifies automatically people that have zero attention to detail. And that's what we do. So this is the way I've always hired. And every time I get away from this, to try to speed up the process and just feel good about getting applicants and interviewing people and talking to them, and like, yeah, I got people. I'd rather just not talk to anybody who isn't really interested. It just saves me a whole lot of aggravation and time. So I do that. Once it comes back, I say, okay, yeah, you're interested. Okay, I send them an application, because I need to know in the application how much they're making, what they're wanting. And if they're making $35 an hour and I'm offering 18, what are you doing applying at my company? Unless something is seriously wrong. So we got to have usually also a formal application online, because we have to have a process that complies, because we can't have a different system. And and applying on Indeed isn't a real application. It's an interest, but it isn't a real application. So they do that. I send them an application. They fill it out. Once I get the application back, then I know they're serious, because they filled out an application to work. And It isn't just about clicking things to say, yeah, I'm interested, because it's just so easy. Everything is easy for everybody. So if life is so easy, having a conversation with my son about him, coming up, and he says, but I want an easy way to do this. I said, there's no easy. It's going to require your work, and your idea of easy is I just click everything and I'm just going to get an interview. No, disqualify over 50% off the bat, like that. I look at their experience quickly on resume. Next. Okay, and then I put it in a save file, and then these people that I flag, they get the email. They automatically get a disqualification letter that says, you don't qualify, and we're done. I don't have to manage that, and so it's auto managed. Aren't you afraid you're going to lose good candidates because they're not going to go through the process? If they're not going to go through the process, they're not a good candidate. That's just what I've learned. So that's the case. So then what I do is, okay, now they filled out an application. I see, okay, they're making 18. They ended up making 19 an hour, 20 an hour, but their work situation isn't great. They're willing to start all over again. We started 18 training for 90 days. We evaluate you. Usually I'll know within a week if I'm going to keep you or not, but we give you up to 90 days, and then we talk about a raise after that. And then it's incremental raise based on tiers that we do. So, a tier 1 tech is going to make maximum of this. I don't care how long you're with me. It's not, it's merit pay. It's not because of longevity. So if you're doing maintenance work and all you're doing is maintenance work, and you don't want to do anything more than maintenance work, and all you're doing is little callbacks, putting a station here, spraying exterior, sweeping, and you're just a basic tech, don't expect to make $25, $30 an hour. It's not going to happen. So when we're talking to people, they have an unrealistic expectation of what they're going to be making with no experience and no real experience in the workplace. So now I do that. I send them the one-way interview. I ask them 25 questions on that interview. Anything from, I want to know in the interview, the questions I ask are specifically geared towards knowing what real experience they have, because they have to answer it in a way that actually shows they have the experience. Whether it's in sales, whether it's customer service. I don't look for pest control experience, but I'm getting a lot of applicants with it, and I'm evaluating them for the first time, because some of these are actually good candidates. They haven't been in the field for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, where they're tired and they're looking for a company to go coast. These are younger people, in their 20s, where they've been 1 or 2 years tops, working for some companies that I know, and I know pretty much all of them. Some I know the owners personally, so I know what's going on over there, and I'm evaluating them. And then they answer all the questions. I said, yeah, I can see by the answers and all this, they're being genuine. They have a sincere interest. Their demeanor, their attitude, they get frustrated. Like, you already asked this question in a different way. And I get usually somebody that tells me he has no patience. So if customer asks you the same question 10 times a day, and you got to repeat yourself 10 times a day, 25 times a day, you got to repeat it. And you just hate repeating yourself. This isn't the job for you. You're not going to succeed. So all these things I'm looking for and listening to in this video. And then once I'm satisfied, okay, I think this guy would be a good fit for us. Let me schedule a Zoom meeting. So that's what I have at 10 a.m. today is a Zoom meeting. And I'm going to be discussing with him, trying to get now him to ask me questions about what he wants and what he's looking for. Pretty much got all the questions I really wanted out of him in that interview. Now I just go ahead and do that, and then have this Zoom meeting. I offered to go to breakfast. He said, no, I'm not really a breakfast person. I'd rather do the Zoom meeting. Okay. I don't know why, except maybe he's working, or he has to go in his truck, or, he can't take the time off for this. Eventually he's going to, we're going to have to take a day or whatever for him to try it, because then the next step, if I decide I want to give him a shot, is going out a day with me on a truck in a field to actually look at the work, do the work, and seeing, I'll pay him for that. And then I decide at the end of the day if I think he's going to make it, or if he even wants to. And then we have that conversation, and then that's pretty much the end of it. If it isn't, my investment so far with that person has been about 15-minute interview that I'm going to do, maybe. And that's it. And I don't waste my time with anybody else that isn't going to be worthy, because time is too short. I don't have the time. I don't have the patience for people that want to drag their feet. I need to know who's in, who's out, and I need to know quickly, and I need to make decisions quickly. One of the things that I was, I'm going to get um, a little spiritual with you guys here, because a lot of you know I'm a believer. I'm a biblical based believer, and I've been going back into my meditation, and I'm going to have my morning routine of my Bible study. Life has been so hectic that I've dropped that for a long time, that I don't have that time just to do my Bible study, my morning. And I wake up really early a lot of the times, and then I'm immediately going to work, just frantic, trying to get everything done. And I realize it's still not getting me anywhere. So I might as well just do what used to do that gives me more peace, and have my morning routine, whatever that is for you, whether it's sitting outside listening to birds, watching drum music. I don't care. For me, it's always been Bible study. It's always been that. And the purpose of what I do, I have a neat story. I got a WhatsApp message last week from a person, actually reached out to me, yeah, through WhatsApp. And he reached out and he said, I'm in Georgia, and I want to do, I already do we do a bit of integrated pest management, and we're just trying to finite my technique and our technique. And so I start getting into conversation about what they do and this and that. And then he says, well, we're not in Georgia, the city, we're in Georgia, the country. So they're not even in the US, they're in Europe. And we started having this conversation. I'm like, okay, so how much experience do you have? Because we're doing via text. We haven't been able to talk via text. And I watched all your videos, and I've been following you, and I see that you're doing IPM, and we want to do IPM, and we want to find out our protocols. I want to know if anything that we're missing to do things better. And then, man, I started in this conversation. I said, dude, you're further along than probably 90% of the industry in the US in this, and they're looking to find out. So the reach that we've had in other countries, and where people are wanting to do what I've been talking about, IPM and integrated pest management and holistic pest management, which is really what I rebranded it to, is holistic pest, because really what it is, it's a holistic view on pest control. I hope I didn't drink all my coffee now. And they've been following me for a long time, looking at everything, looking at all my videos and everything we do, and they want to do a lot of it. And a lot of it has to do with what's available in their country. The communication, I said, how good is your English and the people's English, so we can communicate and I can try. So no, but they're not very good, but I have pretty good English. He does. I don't know if he's using ChatGPT to write to me or translator, but it seems like he writes very well in English. They got their thing together. They're an 8-person company with 4 technicians in the country of Georgia. And I thought it was really neat that my impact has had that. And what I want to talk to you about, besides the things that we're doing technically, is more the motivation and the inspiration behind it. When I started doing this podcast 10 years ago now, it's been now 10 years. If I would have asked people around me, should I start a podcast and start educating people on holistic pest management and integrated pest management, over sounding would have been a no. You don't have the right degree. You don't have a PhD. You don't have this. You don't know. Nobody knows you in the industry. You're unknown. And I have an enormous amount of faith in my abilities, and in what I can do. First of all, I already had experience in broadcasting, for a long time. And I have a background in tech, and I have a background in video and television. So I had everything, and I just didn't have the right pedigree or the credentials. I didn't have 20 years of experience in the industry. I only had, at that point, 7. And who am I to start a podcast? And I decided that I'm going to start a podcast. And for the first 2 years of doing one podcast a week, really had no audience. Nobody cared. And then surely it started to take off after that. but it was 100 podcasts later. Okay. And one of the things that I was meditating on this morning was, I was actually meditating in the shower about the mustard seed. And God kept, this just kept bugging at me about the mustard seed, the mustard seed, the mustard seed. And I'm listening to all this and in my head, and then I'm in the shower and I start going through all the verses because my thinking is toilet or shower. Sorry, nobody gets it, but that's where I am, and I do most of the thinking in there because I'm alone. There's no distraction. It's the water. Sometimes I'll just put my head down and let the water just hit my head and just meditate for a minute, have some mindfulness, just listening to that water, and it just clears my head because I'm so bogged down with so many things. So I'm there and I'm like, okay, the mustard seed, and I start thinking through all the verses that I know. It says there are not that many. There is no mention in the Old Testament of mustard seeds, and I'm thinking, what the heck does have to do with mustard seeds? And then I'm going through all the verses in my head, and Jesus talking about, if you had the faith, the most popular one, if you had the faith, like the size of a mustard seed, you could say to the mountain, move, and say to the tree, go jump in the sea. And I said, that has no practical application because first of all, we know from history and the disciples that they surely did many miracles. They just never moved the mountain and threw it into the sea. Nobody's ever done that in history. So Jesus is obviously using an exaggeration to show that you can do so many great things. And what he ends up with is nothing will be impossible for you. In Matthew 17:20, Jesus said to them, because what he said, they're going there. This kid was brought in who apparently had some issue with falling down, some neurological issue, falling down into the fire, and he would fall into the water and he would get hurt. And the father had taken him to the disciples. Must have been the 12 or whoever, how many disciples he had following. And said none of them could heal him. None of them could help him. And so he goes to Jesus. Jesus has this meltdown in front of everybody. Oh, in creating this generation, how long must they suffer? He wasn't talking about his disciples. He's talking about the whole generation of people who were here he is in Israel. Think about this for a minute. Incredulous generation, how long must I suffer you? He's in Israel talking to Jews who had known the law, the miracles of God, the parting of the seas, and knew everything about God, were religious in everything they did, and yet he calls them an incredulous generation. And obviously he wasn't speaking about his disciples. They were actually believe in him. They believed in what he was doing. But they couldn't they couldn't do this. It turns out Jesus comes bringing the oil and he casts out a demon. It was a demon, and when you read your text, it's like not everybody who has a neurological problem or has whatever it is has a demon. I mean, that's the biggest mistake that the church does, but I digress. And he says, if you have faith as a mustard seed. Now, obviously, mustard seeds don't have faith. Soil doesn't have faith. None of this has faith. He's talking about the size of it. And for that part of the world at that time, that was the smallest seed known. Obviously today I'm into horticulture and botany and arboriculture, and I've been dealing for almost 20 years now in landscapes and ornamental landscapes. Today we know that the smallest seeds in the world are like dust, and they're from orchids. Except Jesus wasn't trying to be scientifically accurate. Jesus was trying to be relevant to something they understood. And everybody in that region understood what a mustard seed was, what a mustard tree was, mustard plant. It could grow. It's a small shrub, but it's larger than every other herb in the garden. It sticks out once it grows more than any other herb, which is compared to. And then it can grow up to 12 feet where, birds can actually perch in it. So when Jesus is talking about in chapter 13, I go back and say, well, he mentions it in 13. He uses that about the seeds of the sower and the parable of that. And I'm like, what's the association here? And I'm going back and forth and looking for it. And he comes to this and he says, and nothing will be impossible to you if you have faith. So the problem with the disciples, and I'm going to bring this into the business environment and into the educational environment and into the real world environment of applicable biblical teaching, where they had enough faith to follow him and to know that he was the Messiah. Okay, that was clear, because they wouldn't have followed him and go through all this thing that they're going through if they didn't believe. What they didn't believe is that they could heal somebody. This is what the unbelief that Jesus is dealing with. And at the end, he says, and this kind does not get out without prayer and fasting. So obviously, the disciples had not been practicing prayer and fasting to get direction from God on how God was going to use them to heal people. They didn't even think that this is going to be part of their ministry. Obviously, we know when Jesus dies and is resurrected and his disciples follow him, I'll deal with that later. And the disciples did miracles. They raised people from the dead. They healed the sick, the lame walk. And that was part of the gospel message that Jesus preaches. If you follow me, you will see these miracles. And it wasn't only for the disciples, the apostles then, it is for us too today. Part of the walk is experiencing miracles, although not in the same degree and not in the same type and not for everybody, but we do experience them. But what's interesting enough is that these disciples had walked with Jesus, but they did not have the faith, the little enough faith to believe that they could actually heal somebody or that God could use them to heal, because we don't heal anybody. Okay, we don't have the power to heal. I disagree with that. Scripture makes that clear, that it is God who works all these things in all of us for his glory, and it's the work of the Holy Spirit. So it is all of the work of God, not of us. We don't have the power to heal. God gives us the gift, but the gift is not something we earn or deserve or whatever. He gave gifts to men. So how many times in business, let's bring this back here and take this into business, where, and I've got about another 10 or 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes. How many times in business or in life, that you can start a business, you can go take a course, you can go to college, you can do any of this. And in my personal experience, and in the years, I'm 54, I started listening to motivational on tape. Let me just get this real quick. Don't do it. And I would listen to the motivational tapes. I would listen to the audiobooks as a young man. And I put some of it into practice, but I never really did a whole lot. Like people who go to Tony Robbins conferences. I mean, 99% of those people are never going to do, they have shelf knowledge, they have bookshelf knowledge, but they're never going to do anything with it. They don't have faith as that mustard seed. They don't have a little bit of faith that they could do it. Therefore, they learn about it, they know about it, and they feel good learning about it and knowing and having conversations about it and telling everybody how much they know. But they never do anything. A lot of them are like school teachers. They know what's in the curriculum. They teach what's in the curriculum. They don't believe it. They don't do it. They don't practice it. That's the same way it is with a lot of ministers, a lot of people. They know a lot about a lot of things. They do nothing with it. They have no faith because it requires, and here is where a lot of people misquote James. when James talks about, oh man, do you want to know that faith without works is dead? Okay. And faith without works is dead. The Bible says without faith, it is impossible to please God. A lot of people are trying to please God with knowledge. I have the knowledge. I know about the Bible. I know about this. I know about that. Right. But you don't practice any of it. You don't walk out in faith to do any of it. You just know about it. And the church is full of people sitting there just like Tony Robbins conferences where they're consuming content, just like a lot of people that follow me that consume my content, but never actually believe that it can be done and never put it into practice. It's the same principle. Forget about Bible, spiritual. I'm not trying to convert you to Christianity, although I am. I mean, I'm preaching the word of God. He says it will not come back to me void. It will accomplish that in which I sent it. So therefore, by me just talking about it, it has a work in people's lives. If it's just to help you get out of your depressive mode that you're in and start walking and putting something into practice, then great. Because I get, what motivates me is the calls that I get about once a month, once every 2 months. Hey man, I've been following you since you first started. And I want to let you know, bro, that I actually took the tests and I went and got hired at a company and I became a technician. And just because they heard about pest control through me. And now they've taken all their certifications and they're fully licensed and fully certified in their state, whatever that is for their state. And they just send me a little testimonial saying, thank you, because I have a checkered background. And not a lot of careers were available to me. So that's encouraging that I realize my work is mostly as a minister, talking to people, but you look at the parable of the seeds, not all the seeds produce fruit. It was only a percentage that actually heard the word, implemented it, and then it produced a harvest, and it produced a 10-fold increase or a 100-fold increase, the fruit of that. So the fruit that you'll produce is only going to be if you have enough faith as a mustard seed, little tiny amount of faith, to actually put it into practice, what you know. That's going to be the way that you get what most people say is, I don't understand. How do you do all the things that you do? It's very simple. I believe enough in them to just go do it without needing anybody's permission, without needing to get, I don't need approval from NPMA to put on a podcast about pest control. I didn't need it 10 years ago. I don't need approval from Rutgers University that says I'm qualified now to teach pest control. The industry will decide if I know anything or not, if I am worth my salt, but I don't need to go to Purdue University and get a PhD degree and then say, once I get my PhD and once I get 20 years of experience, then I will do a podcast. I believe enough in what I was doing, which I already had 7 years of experience proving everybody else wrong in the industry around me, that it could be done, and then went out and did it. How? Because I have enough faith in me, in my abilities, and I don't need really a lot of validation, although people think, but I do bounce a lot of ideas on people a lot of the times to see what the reaction is. But I already done, by the time I talk about it, I've already done so much research on it. I know it's possible. It's not impossible. But when we want to do the impossible, all we have to do the impossible is really to walk out in faith and do it. Sure, you get a multitude of counselors that are qualified to help you through the process. I'm talking about accountants and lawyers and people. You listen to everyone's advice and you say, okay, this is the risk. I know the risk, but I also know the facts. And I also know the stats are for me, not against me. Because once you understand statistics, you realize they're really for you. So that's it. I mean, if you want to do the impossible, nothing will be impossible for you. The only way it's impossible for you is if you never do anything. If you never do anything, that's when it's truly impossible. As long as you can do it, and you're willing to walk out in faith, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall. You're going to stumble. You're going to get hurt. You're going to go broke. You're going to get a lot of things happen to you. But again, if you stick to it and you get advice and you get the counsel, then you can go ahead and do it. So I'm going to quit here because I got to go into my meeting in 10 minutes. I need to prep for that and make sure that the thing with my microphone doesn't have. I need a new cable. I know my son dropped it because I put now my office in his room because, our place is not that big. It's only like 1,600 square feet. It's a townhouse, and downstairs I had it in my office, but my wife comes in after work, and she's like, I got to sit here. And she likes to sit on the couch and watch TV and rest. And I got to see an office. I'm like, okay, well, where do we put it? I can't put it in the garage because I've got that as a warehouse. And I got no place else. Well, we can build build it out in a closet that we have. It's really big, but then we lose the closet. So why not just take it upstairs to my son's room? I mean, he's here during the day for a couple of hours. He doesn't even play in here. He uses it to sleep. Yeah, but then you won't be able to work because you wake up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. He's up at 6 every day. That's fine. If I wake up at 3 in the morning, I'll go downstairs. I got a laptop. I can sit there quietly and do stuff, and it'll limit the amount. Plus, I put his desk next to mine because he wants to learn how to do video editing now, and he wants to getting involved in gaming and stuff, and he wants to learn how to code, and he's into that. I want to do all these things, and it's a great time for me when he's after school that I'm doing work, and I said, all right, look, just do this, and learn how to do this, and it gives us some time together to do some stuff that he's interested in because he's not interested in a whole lot of things. I mean, he wants to do sports, but he doesn't want to put the work in. So, again, I think it was just the brightest move just to put it up here. I got a nice, 64-inch desk where I can put 2 monitors, printer, all my gear and everything. And then I can actually use it as a stand-up desk, or I can use it as a regular desk. So I got whenever I don't want to sit, I can do it, and it works out for everybody. So I want to spend more time and prioritize the things that are important, which is my faith, my family, my finances, my friends, and those are like my major things that I focus on, and I need to because I just had my daughter's 15th birthday, and I just realized 15 years have passed, and it was almost like a blur, and I don't want another 15 years to pass with my son and her, and I only got so many years before they move out. They go on with their lives. And I really want to invest that. So my priority now in growing my business, actually getting people to work. So I don't have to keep doing a lot of this. And it's my motivation. And I really got to do that till I can have the freedom I want. And so I have to do things differently. I got to do things the way some people may not agree. Doesn't matter. They're not in my situation. They're not living my life. They don't have what I have. I'm missing maybe what they have. It's okay. Never going to compare myself to other people. I just do it at my pace, the way I want to do it. Some things I already decided I'm not going to do. No matter who the consultant is, you're not going to talk me into going crazy and having, 50% growth a year where it's unmanageable and I have no life. And I already have an ulcer. I have gastritis. I have, I mean, my whole pretty much stomach system is a mess because of all the stress and all the problems. So I'm taking a step back, slowing it down. That's why I stopped doing the podcasting and doing this. Whatever, I can only do it live, and I don't have to start uploading things, and I can automate everything. And that's good enough for me to get the word out. But aren't you missing opportunities? You'll always miss opportunities. You got to decide which ones you want to take and which ones you don't want to take. You got to decide how big of an impact you have and how much you're willing to pay for that. For me, it's fine. If I can figure out a way how to automate the actual podcast where I don't need an editor. Eric is no longer with me. He's doing his own thing. I decided too much work, costing too much. I want to slow it down. I want to slow my life down. I don't need to be on the edge the whole time. And I want to enjoy my life. I want to do some more traveling. We're doing a lot of traveling now, cruising, and I want to do a lot more of that. And I'm okay with the income I make. I'm okay with the things I'm doing. It's fine. And I just continue to do what energizes me. This is what energizes me. This is what my purpose in life is. I've accepted it. I've embraced it. I've known it for 20 something years since I became a believer. I just got to walk in that. I got to walk in the faith that I profess to have. and give that as an example also to my kids, because that's my legacy, is what my kids see and what they see at home. They don't need an angry, stressed out, frustrated dad. They need a dad that's loving and kind and has time. And seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added onto you, the things you worry about. So I've been worrying about the things and I still don't get a better result. So why worry about it? That's kind of been what my reflection has been for the last couple of weeks. And in this weekend, it really climaxed with my daughter and the emotions and everything like that. I cried like a sissy at her 15th birthday. I was choked up. I couldn't even talk. I mean, imagine me. I talked for an hour. It was like 30-second speech, and I just welled up and started crying like a sissy because it's my my little girl's 15th birthday. She's becoming a woman, and I'm realizing this. So yeah, man, kind of prioritizing everything in my life, my health, my well-being, trying to show the reality of what things are really like and not the facade of what things are like. And I think I've always been authentic, but I think I really need to help people along. And I've been focusing on the business growth, but I need to go back to my roots. I always have this every year or every so often. They go back to my roots of teaching people pest control, teaching the entomology. I wanted to do it through courses, but then again, it's so much work to create courses that it's so much easier for me to sit here and talk about what I know versus formalizing everything and then having it uploaded and then creating, quizzes and this and that and the other. Look, it is what it is. Let it be what it is. Bless as many people as you can bless, and just go on with your life. You're never going to live up. Some people think I should be putting an academy and should be sell my business and I should be doing teaching. And a lot of people think a lot of things that I just don't have the bandwidth, don't care, because a lot of people want to see me do things so they can brag about it. Not because it's really the best thing for me, because they're not in my shoes. So that's it, folks. I mean, I hope you're blessed. I'm going to go ahead and quit because I got 3 minutes and I'm going to go and jump on a Zoom meeting, and I will talk to you sometimes a little bit more often because I'm planning to be a lot more in my office again, like I used to be for 6 years. I was in my house working. I was happy going to the gym, working till 2, waking up at 6, not doing anything the rest of the day, spending it with my kids. And for the last 6 years, it's been hell on earth. And now I really need to get to the point where I get back to that, to my mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. And that's what I'm kind of focused on. So until next time, hey, have a pestacular day.